All right, y'all, what time is it? It's 4:30. All right, time to get this one going. All right, good afternoon and or good evening, everybody. Coach Luis here, health fitness specialist with Exos at Autodesk. If you're here with me today, that means it is time for some abs and core. Got a good one planned for us today. This is gonna be a two-part workout, EMOM style. We're gonna work through part one and then part two right after that. So essentially what we got is 3 different movements for each part. So 3 rounds for each part is going to give us about 9 minutes of part 1 and part 2, 18 minutes total, kind of like our usual. Let me go ahead and get into the movements exactly for part 1. So part 1, what we're going to do is start out with a bridge isometric. So we're going to be on our back. We're going to add a little bit of upper body into this. So on our backs here, we are going to drive just down through the heels. So the heels are going to plant, the toes will be up. We're going to squeeze those glutes, have the core muscles really tight. So we're up here in our bridge isometric. And then what we're going to do with that upper body is just reach for the ceiling. So it doesn't have to be the highest or the longest reach as possible, but all we're going to try and do is just kind of take our arms out of the equation, potentially kind of getting in the way of any compensation, us pushing into the ground in order to help our hips stay up here. We got to use all those core muscles, all those muscles around the hips, those glutes to stay up. We're just going to hold that during the duration of our work intervals for round 1, or part 1, I should say. Next up is our plank to pikes. We're going to have those hands planted under the shoulders. Starting out in our nice high plank position, we're going to push ourselves up. So pushing the head through the arms, shoulders are locked out, tail is going up towards the ceiling. We're then going to come back down into that position, pull our shoulder blades down into our back pockets, find that core once again. We're just going to go back and forth between those 2 positions. So I recommend taking it slow, really harping on the 2 positions, the downward dog and then the plank, making sure we got those locked in. And lastly, for part 1, we're going to be doing some crunches. That's our last thing. We're going to be doing lots of crunches here today, guys. So the feet want to stay planted, the knees are bent. What we're going to do, try not to use the arms to use momentum and get yourself up. We're just going to use all those core muscles in front, pull ourselves all the way up, just trying to pull as much back and head off the ground as we can. Think about crushing something under the low back as well. And like I've said before, guys, give yourself a little bit of a reference point to know that you're doing the same rep every time. Take breaks. I know it's going to get burning in this area. So that is part 1. As far as the time intervals for part 1, we're going to be working 50 seconds of work, 10 seconds of rest. So lots of work to be had in part 1. And part 2, we're going to take it down to 45 seconds of work and 15 seconds of rest. So similar to part 1, we're going to start part 2 on our backs on the ground again with a bridge variation. But this time, we're going to challenge the hips a little bit more, challenge the core a little bit more. We're driving down through those heels to come up. And then we're going to kick one leg out, extend, keep the hips nice and even, and then replace that heel on the ground. We're going to switch other side. And the goal here is to keep the core so tight that there's absolutely no rotation or just any instability at all happening around that pelvis. So we're using the core a lot. We're using the glutes a lot. And then we're bringing the hips down if we need to take a rest, but those hips are staying up as long as we are working. Next, we're going to be on our back for some scissor kicks. So the core is tight, it's gluing our back to the ground. Those legs are straight. We're just going back and forth, scissoring a little bit here. And so we're going to big time exhales as we scissor those legs a little bit here, nice and straight. Up higher, it's going to be a little easier. The lower we get, it's going to be harder. Make sure that there is no space between your back and the ground as we do those scissor kicks in part 2. Finally, in part 3, you guys, we're going to be going back to those crunches. So like I said, good amount of crunches in this workout here today. All right, so again, I'll review just for a quick moment. Part 1, we're going to be working for 50 seconds and then resting for 10. That's going to be a bridge iso. We're just holding the hips up, plank to pike, and then crunches. We're going to do 3 rounds of that and then move on to part 2. Part 2 is 3 rounds, 45 seconds of work, 15 seconds of rest. that bridge with the fancy leg kick, the scissor kicks, and then crunches once again. So big emphasis on all the muscles in front here today, and also resisting any kind of extension through that spine. So now that we got that going, I'm gonna go ahead and get into the warm-up. I'll guide us through the workout as we go. Let's start on our backs on the ground here for the warm-up, you guys. And if you were wondering, all we need is a little bit of space on the ground for this workout here today. I also wanna make sure that you guys have some water nearby just so we can stay hydrated, even if we don't feel hydrated. It is a warm one up here in Northern California today, warmer than I expected. So let's take a nice big deep breath as we're here on our backs. And then push all the air out until we feel all that tension around the lower rib cage and the core. Let's bring those legs up, knees are bent. We're just gonna move from the hips here, tapping one heel on the ground at a time. Nothing should change. Our lower back is staying glued to the mat. We can continue to breathe regularly. Good, let's do one more each side. Tap, tap with that heel, good. Core muscles are getting woken up. Good job, you guys. Okay, now time to work out another part of our core. So on our back still, let's get those toes up. We're just gonna do about 10 bridges. So this is just coming up and down. We wanna think about having the core tight before the hips even leave the ground, and then getting the hips to leave the ground, thinking about crushing a walnut in between our glutes. So the core stays tight the whole time. We crush that walnut, we bring the hips up. Remember, the hips don't have to come as high as they possibly can. If you look at me, it almost looks like I'm not bringing them up as high as I could, but this is the perfect kind of neutral position for my hips here. Position that I can support myself with the core and through the spine, not doing too much, putting that spine in a bad position. Wherever you're at, let's do one more. Nice big squeeze. Getting ready for all that bridge work today. Big challenge with the bridge work. We're gonna be feeling it in the hamstrings and glutes, structures that I also consider to be in the core as well. Very important for that pelvic function. All right, you guys, so good job with that warm up. Stand up if you need to. Do a couple more bridges if you feel the need. I'm gonna go ahead and start up or get our clock set up. If you guys don't already have your water and your space set up, take this moment to do so. And if you're in a hot space and you got access to a fan, I would recommend that too. All right, so 18 minutes of work. We're going straight from part one to part two. So after the last round of that crunches, we're gonna have 10 seconds. We'll get right into part two, and that's when the rest periods will start to get a little bit longer after that bridge with the leg extension. All right, guys, here we go. We're getting started in 3, 2, 1 on the clock. Okay, so time for our bridge, but it's the bridge where we're gonna hit a nice quick freeze frame. So tighten up the core, we'll drive the hips up. We're squeezing the glutes constantly. And then when you're ready, we're reaching up for the ceiling. So the core is nice and tight. Glutes doing most of the work here, supporting the pelvis. And remember, it's toes up, so it's just the heels in contact with the ground here. We got 20 seconds to go. Remember, it's 50 seconds of work, 10 seconds of rest here for this part one. Okay, and get a little burn going, hanging out in this stationary position. We're almost done. It's the plank to pike up next, you guys. So we're gonna have to flip on over and time. Ooh, glutes are already feeling it. Okay, plank to pike up next here, you guys. Again, we're focusing on best plank position and then best pike position. Here we go. So find that high plank position first. Make sure you can lock that in. Then we can push those hips up. We'll push the head through the shoulders here, lock those out, and then come back down to that plank position. Remember, this one does not have to be done fast. What we're working on is kind of locking in those two positions, and then movement between the two will come pretty naturally. Want to stay pushing away from the ground, but not crazy enough to bend that upper back here. Bracing like we were about to get hit in the stomach with something light. You just want it to bounce right off. Keep that core tight. We're almost done. Breathe through it. Last rep here, coming back to the plank and time. Good job, y'all. Good job. Okay, we're on our back. Crunches up next. We're going to start those in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Now, I understand these are difficult. Remember, we're just peeling up as much back as we can. And if we can only get a few reps that are really good, that's all right. Let's string together those few reps, take a quick rest, and then we'll do it all over again. I'd rather us just have only a few reps here that are really quality instead of us getting into a whole variety of stuff that looks a little bit different. Good work, you guys. Even if you have to be like me and reset after every single rep, that is okay. Trying to create a bunch of lines. Ooh, and time. Ended right on time there. All right, good job, you guys. We can stay here on our back. Round 2 of part 1 is coming up. Bridge. Let's get those toes up. Let's get those hips up. The core is tight. And we're just hanging out, reaching up for the ceiling. As we exhale, we're kind of reinforcing that tension through the midsection, guys. Don't think about just tension in the front. Think about a nice belt of tension around that core, protecting everything from that lower rib cage all the way through the pelvis. Good, driving those heels straight down. Don't pull them back in closer. Big glute squeeze. Got about 10 seconds left. I know it's probably starting to burn a little bit, at least mine is. Breathe. And time. We can let those hips down. There we go. Good job. Okay, plank to pike is coming up next. This is round 2. All right, guys, here we go. Let's find that plank position. We're up into that pike, pushing the head through those straight arms, and then we're back to the plank. Remember, none of this is for speed. We don't want to be going super, super fast here. Core just really tight, like we're bracing for something. We're not sucking in at all. We're just bracing. Good work. Nice, calm breathing. You're almost done with this one. Good, one more rep. That is it. We have a little bit of time to rest. Good job, y'all. Good job. Okay, way to stay with me. We got crunches one more time, or excuse me. This is the end of round 2. Got to do crunches one more time after this. All right, here we go. Good. I know they're probably getting harder. Think about peeling as much upper back as we can up off the ground. And I know it's tough. Let's try and keep those feet down. Pretend we got magnets on the bottom of our feet, sticking our feet in the ground. Good job, you guys. Remember, minimal compensation. That's how we can build up our reps from the ground up. There we go. Good job. Good job. We're almost done. One more. All right, guys, time to rest. We're going on to the final round of part 1. So we're starting on our backs, bridge iso one more time. Here we go. So toes are up, core is tight, glutes are squeezed. And then when we're ready, we're reaching up towards the ceiling or sky. Just taking our arms out of the equation, making sure they're not pushing down on the ground to give us extra stabilization or take the pressure off those hips. Keep that core tight, you guys. Just driving those heels straight down into the ground. Don't pull. Breathe through it with me. I know it's a lot of tension. Glutes are not going to be happy in part 2 when we have that fancy bridge. Almost done, y'all. A few seconds left. And time. There we go. Okay, plank to pike. Last time we got to do it here, you guys. We're starting that in 3, 2, 1. Hands planted on the shoulders. We find that good high plank first. Good. There we go. Excellent work, you guys. Way to go back and forth between those two positions. Be confident in each one of those positions when you get there. Hang out for just a second. Let your body know what's going on. And then we're moving again back into that other position. Don't let those hips come too low. Coming back to the plank. I just caught myself doing that. Good job, guys. Let's keep the work going. Almost done. Last rep and time. There we go. Whew. All right, we are back on our backs, crunches. This is the last time, at least for this part. We are going to be doing crunches in part 2 as well. Let's get ourselves to it. Good. Remember, same quality reps. Give yourself that reference point. Each week, we're getting better at this one. It's okay to reset, guys. Just don't use those arms to compensate or help us out. Remember, after this, we're going to have a short 10-second rest before we go into the bridge with the leg extension. Going to be a quick turnaround going into part 2. Have a little more rest after. Let's do one more rep here. Good job, and rest. All right, you guys, we can stay on our back here because the next thing that is coming up is part 2, and that is a bridge with the leg extension. We're going to alternate. Here we go. All right, so same setup as before. We're going to drive the hips up. The core is tight. We're just pushing down through the heels, but now we're going to kick one leg out and then bring it back in. So this one's really going to challenge, hey, how stable can we keep the hips here? Could we support a plate of our favorite food without it sliding off? Could we support one of those little level things that people use in construction? Would it stay even? Let's find out. We're working a little bit less now. 45 seconds of work. Keep that core tight. Don't let yourself shift. On a very minimal shift, if anything at all. And time. We can put those hips down. Good job, you guys. All right, we're on our backs for the next one. This is the scissor kicks. Remember, very important for us to use our core to glue the low back to the ground. If there's any space at all, rest and reset. All right, here we go. So first of all, we're gluing our lower back to the ground. Want to make sure we can comfortably breathe in this position. Going for 3 rounds of 45 seconds here. So make it manageable. Take little breaks if you need to. This one is so tough because you have to keep the legs really straight using those quads. Stay nice and solid, you guys. Imagine I'm sitting there trying to pull your mat out from under you. Don't let me get that mat. Use those core muscles. Good, there we go. Almost done, a few more seconds, come on. And time, there we go. Whew. That one is tough. All right, guys, we can stay on our backs all the way through because we have crunches coming up once again. It's a shorter work period. Let's keep that same form from part 1 though. Here we go. Might need a little bit more rest now, and that is okay. Slowly, we're just getting better at using these muscles in front, trying to create a bunch of ripples in our skin up here. Think about bringing the bottom of that sternum closer to the top of that pelvis. That's what all those muscles are doing right here. They're shortening that space. Good job, you guys. Good job. I know this is getting tough. We got about 10 more seconds. Keep those feet down, you guys, and time. All right, so round one of part 2 is done. We got the bridge with the leg extension coming up next. All right, guys, 3, 2, 1, here we go. Hips up, pushing one leg out or kicking it out, I should say. Core is really tight. Hands on the hips even to try and see if they're shifting side to side. Switch does not have to be super quick here, you guys. If you want to plant that foot, start driving with the other, and then let that foot leave, totally cool. Good. Come on, guys, support yourself. Heels only, no toes. Almost done, a few more seconds. And time, there we go, let those hips down. We can rest, scissor kicks. Round 2, second time we gotta do it coming up here. Man, this one's tough. All right, 3, 2, 1. Let's find that good position, you guys. Remember, we don't have to go the whole time. We're going as long as we comfortably can, but this is also a good time for us to learn about ourselves, learn about what pace works, how to break up these intervals to best suit our progression. And that's personal for everybody. Excellent work, you guys. Way to struggle. I know we're in this together. 15 seconds left. Legs are nice and straight. Don't let me get that mat or that towel that's under your low back. Someone's pulling on it. Don't let me get it. And time. There we go. All right, guys. Crunches. Round 2. We're coming up on round 3. Home stretch here. Pretty much the final 4 minutes of this workout. We're going to go with crunches in 3, 2. Here we go. Man, by this time it is tough. Take your time in between reps, you guys. That extra breath of rest can be the difference between a really strong rep and a poor rep as we get into the later minutes here. Good work, guys, good work. It's all about the quality here. Hopefully we're gonna have some sore abs tomorrow. Hopefully we'll wake up, look in the mirror in the morning, and it'll just be looking like a 6-pack. But for now, we're struggling. Let's go ahead and take a rest. That is the end of round 2. In part 2, we only got 1 round left, 3 minutes left. Let's make it look really good. Starting with that bridge here, you guys. 3, 2, 1, here we go. So we're driving through the heels, establish that nice level hip, and then we can start to go back and forth, kicking those legs out. Don't have to kick too strong, you guys. Not practicing for soccer or anything like that. Nice and controlled, kicking it out. Using that core to support the midsection and the spine. Driving down through the heels. One glute and hamstring, one side of glutes and hamstrings at a time are what's supporting us here. Really hard to resist that twist when we're unevenly supported. Good job, you guys. 1 more rep and time. There we go. Good job, you guys. Okay, flutter kicks coming up next. Take a break for water if you need it. All right, guys, flutter kicks. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Find that good form. Remember, someone is trying to pull towel out from under your low back. Don't let them get it. You want to leave an imprint of that towel on the ground because that's how hard we are pushing on it from the top. Excellent work, everybody. Remember, little sets within this set. Really tight core, legs nice and straight. Got a few seconds left. Stay with me. Come on. And time. There we go. Whew. We can rest those legs. We are now in the final minute, the final 45 seconds of work with these crunches. Lots of these today. I'm going to start in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Good job, you guys. Good job. Great work, you guys. Great work. Keep squeezing. Keep trying to crush something under the low back. We're peeling up as much upper back as we can. Good. There we go. We're almost done, you guys. Let's keep going through the end. One good rep at a time. And that's it. That is time. Good job, you guys. Whew, man, I don't know if I was going to be able to do any more after that. Whew. All right, guys. Good job. Good job. We got a few seconds, or a few minutes, I should say, left. So let's concentrate on calming ourselves down, slowing it down a little bit. We're going to do a couple stretches here. But before we do that, feel free to take a moment, grab some water, take a quick lap around the room maybe, and just walk off any residual burn you might be feeling from those pesky crunches. As we can take a few more deep breaths, a lot of that tissue around the midsection is going to relax. Let's start with something relaxing here in our cool down. Let's find the ground and the mat, hands and knees. Let's spread those knees apart a little bit. We can bring the feet together in the back if you'd like. Walk those hands forward, and we're gonna sink back into some child's pose. So coming to a point where we can rest the face, chin, or cheek on the ground if that's comfortable for you. The arms are just relaxed up overhead. And now we can just focus on our breathing, expanding the midsection with each inhale. And extending that exhale, blowing all that air out like we're blowing through a straw. Just calming down so we can take on the rest of our afternoon or evening. Very deep breaths here, you guys. It always feels like I can breathe much more than I could during the class. Obviously, you got the rib cage and the lungs pretty locked down as we work the core, but this is now the point where we can really let it all loose, really expand that tissue. Relax all those core muscles. Let's do one more big breath here. Nice, long, slow exhale to end that child's pose. So after that, you can slowly bring yourself back up. And from here, we're going to leave one knee on the ground and get one leg out in front to support us. Do a quick hip flexor stretch. And I got a different cue for you guys here today, but what we're going to do, we're going to start with that glute in the back. So my left knee is down. That left glute is going to squeeze, tilting my pelvis back, getting me some tension in the front of the hip. We're going to push the hip forward a little bit just to find some tension. And now what I want us to do is take one of those hands and put it kind of right on the hip where we feel that tension. For me, it's right about here. Now let's focus in on breathing into that hand. So I'm going to try and expand that area of my body, trying to push my air directly into that hand. Good. We're keeping that glute squeeze, maintaining that tension. But with each breath, as we try and push our air towards that hand, some of that tissue is going to stretch and then relax into a longer position. Let's do one more breath just like this. Good. All right, let's come back out of that one. We're going to drop the other knee to the ground. So same deal, other side here. My left leg's out to support, right knee's down, that right glute's going to squeeze, going to tilt the pelvis back here. We're gonna push the hip forward, find some of that tension. Now my right hand's gonna go right here to the front of my right hip. And I'm trying to breathe into that right hand. Even though it doesn't feel like I can send all the air directly into that hand, it's gonna help me navigate a little bit. It's gonna help me push the air into that area so we can lengthen that tissue a little bit, make it relax, force it to relax. Let's do one more breath here. Good work, you guys. Let's relax. Come on out of that. That glute can relax. Thank you guys for sticking with me through that 2-part workout. That one was a doozy. Hopefully we're all waking up with 6 packs tomorrow from all of those crunches. If you feel like you didn't do good with the crunches, I'm kind of right there with you, but tomorrow's a new day. We will get better at them eventually. So hope everyone has a great rest of your evening. If you're looking to see what else we got going on, go ahead and check out our SharePoint site. That's Exos at Autodesk for everything Exos at Autodesk. All right, you guys, take care. Have a good evening. I will catch you in that next session. Good job, everybody. Good work.